we've been advising getting into Africa since the crash of 2008, 2009, purely on a valuation basis. Obviously, a large amount of the world's money still likes to know that it's going somewhere with everybody else. You can't beat the human being's mentality to be a part of the herd. So we've been very bullish on the space for a long time now, and where these markets have gone since 2009 bears testimony to the fact that we were right. But like all things, a measure of patience is required, and a slightly longer term view is required. And the conventional wisdom out there is that Africa is obviously a very consumer story. Africa's never going to be a place that's going to beat the world with any technological gains and so on. But from a resources perspective and a consumption perspective, as hundreds of millions of people come out of the middle class or into the middle class, it's obviously going to have its natural effect on banking, brewing, cement manufacturing, agriculture and the like. So that's where the play is going to be. The different markets just mean exposure to all of these countries, and from an investment perspective, it is very difficult for a fund manager sitting overseas, in that Africa is 53 distinct countries with their own legal systems and so on, and regulatory requirements. Out of those, I think there are 28 stock markets. I think 23 of them are sort of readily recognized as tradable, but only 3 or 4 of them can you do anything meaningful in outside of South Africa. And in that you can read Kenya, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, to a certain extent Mauritius and Botswana. But once you go past those markets, it starts getting really difficult from a liquidity perspective. But that doesn't mean that that they're not going to be part of the same story. To position your money in there, I think on the long-term view, is what most players are about. And they'll take their opportunities when they can see them. But to be exposed to one story in Kenya doesn't mean that you shouldn't be exposed to the same thing that's going to happen in the next door country, being Uganda. Your point of entry is similar, but how much you can actually get in with is the issue at hand. But at the end of the day, it's also one of the big challenges in the markets out there, is all the relative weightings, because popular fund investment science says that you have to do everything by its market cap weighting and those kinds of parameters. People quite readily forget that if a share is going to go up 25%, it doesn't matter whether it's the biggest one or the small one. It just matters that you've got a sizable investment in it. And once you start getting around that kind of science, which is where computer programs and so on tell you how to do it, that's where the successful fund managers actually make really big gains.